It seems that there are more people today. Interesting. Okay, the new homework has been posted. Okay, and so I think it's due next week. And the Learn Smart exercise due this week, and the other one, graded one, is due next week. Okay, so today we're going to finish chapter 8. Okay, and we're going to talk about the last market structure. Last class we talked about another last market structure, the third one. Okay. Last class we talked about the monopolistic market, right? Okay, we learned how to derive the optimal output and optimal price, and for the monopolist. Okay, and we learned that monopolist is maintaining positive profit in the long run, in the short run, because there's no competitors. There's barrier to enter and exit. So the third market structure. The third market structure we're going to talk about today is called the monopolistically competitive market. Monopolistically competitive market. If you look at this name here, it has both the word competitive and monopolistic. So this is very actually descriptive name. It tells you this market is neither perfect competitive nor monopolist. So it is not an extreme market, and it is in between. Okay. It has some competitive nature and also have some monopolistic power. Okay, so that's what actually most of the goods fall into this market here. Okay. So first let's talk about the characteristics of this market. Okay. The first one we always talk about how many providers in this market. In this market, monopolist competitive market, we have many providers as well, many competitors, just like a perfect competitive market. Okay. Because of that, there's many competitors, many providers. So each firm maintain a very small market share, just like the perfect competitive firm. Each firm maintain very small market share. Therefore, the market power for the firm in this market does not come from the market share, because they don't have big market share. In the monopolist market, they maintain all the market. They have the biggest market share. So that's where the market power comes from. But in this one, and each firm only maintain a very small market. Okay, and that small market share does not generate any market power for the firm in this market. Okay. Second characteristic, we always talk about the goods, whether they are homogeneous goods or heterogeneous goods. Okay, so in this market, the goods are differentiated, different. Differentiation. Okay. So the goods are not the same, they're different. And the firm, in order to charge a different price, charge a higher price than the competitors, they have to use differentiation, because they don't have the big market share. So if they want to have the market power, the power of charging a higher price without losing all the customers, they have to use the differentiation. So this is a major characteristic of this market, differentiation. Okay. The third characteristic, what do you think about the price? Is a firm is price taker or a price setter? in this market.
I'm assuming collectively they're price setters.
They set their own price because their goods are differentiated. They're different. So the market do not determine the price. They determine the price by themselves. Okay. So price setter. Okay. What about the enter and exit?
There are more barriers in perfect competition, but less barriers in monopoly.
Monopolist. Okay. So actually, this one, we have free entering and free exit. Because if we have a barrier to enter or exit, then it cannot be competitive. And this market is very, very competitive. The only difference between this market and the perfect competitive market is the differentiation.
Oh.
In this market, goods are differentiated. Okay. The toilet paper has different textures. Okay, hand soap has different smell, different packaging, differentiation. So no barrier. Enter and exit. And also here, I want to introduce a term we call the brand equity. Brand What is brand equity? Brand equity is a difference that consumers are paying. Okay, so the example I use, okay, and if you buy a Lancome skin product, that is much more expensive if you buy from the Walmart brand, like
Great value.
yeah, great, or some other brand. It's much difference, and there's $20-$30 difference for a facial cream or for the eye cream. Okay, but still consumers buy that. Is willing to pay that difference. Willing to buy the Lancome product, even that's much cheaper, much more expensive. Okay, what they're paying, that difference they're paying, we call the brand equity, because they're loyal to that brand. They think that brand provides some differentiation, okay, provide a different result and outcome and for the skin. So that difference we call the brand equity. Okay, the firms use the advertising, comparative advertising, to maintain this brand equity. Okay, so if you pay attention to the advertisement, those company and put out in the public, they are trying to differentiate their product. How our product is different from everybody else. That's why we're charging a little bit more. Okay. So they're using comparative advertising and to maintain that brand equity. And also sometime, and they may launch a new line of product, okay, to target that particular consumer. For example, I remember 10 years ago, when I go to a grocery store, I don't see the organic products, organic fruit, organic vegetables. We did not have that 10 years ago, okay? But now you go to the, a grocery store, you see the organic, product all the time. Okay, why did they do that? Okay, because they use that to differentiate their product from everything else, from all the other products. So by doing this, by launching new line, we are targeting a particular group of consumer. What they're targeting is the consumer who really care about their health and really into the nutrition stuff like that. Okay. All right. And also another thing and I'm going to talk about later on is I'm going to show you some a model and a graph. Then we will talk about and how a firm in this market, need to do to maintain a profit margin. Okay, And because some of you may want to start your own business in the future, and I can guarantee you, 90% of business you are thinking fall into this market structure, monopolistic competitive market, okay? And in this market, it's very, very competitive. So which means, and if you've been making positive profit for 2 to 3 years, and you may think this is going to last, and that is a wrong perception, okay? So I'm going to talk a little bit more about when you're in this market and what should you do constantly. Okay, so this is the characteristic of this market. Okay. So next we're going to talk about some basics. Okay, the decision and for the firm in this market. The decision for the firms, the decisions are output and price. Just like in the monopolist market, we need to know how the price and how the output is determined by a firm in this market. Okay. Okay. Remember when we talk about monopolist market and also the perfect competitive market, what we did is this. First we draw the market demand. Okay. And then we draw the demand for this particular firm, right? Okay. And in a perfect competitive market, market demand has a negative slope, but the demand for a particular firm is horizontal. And in the monopolist case, the market demand is a demand faced by the monopolist, right? How about the demand here?
Repeat the question.
Repeat the question? Okay. So here we're drawing the demand, okay? And in the perfect competitive market, the market demand is different from the demand faced by a particular firm, right? Market demand looks like this, and the demand faced by the perfect competitive firm is horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
And in the monopolist market, market demand is the demand faced by the monopolist, so it's the same, right? So what happened here?
You're the same as a monopolist, right? You're the same as a monopolistic.
Okay, so in the monopolist market, there's only one product.
Oh,
Right, there's only one product. There's no substitute or close substitute. So all the consumer, if you want to buy this, you have to buy from them. So the monopoly faces all the consumers. So we just have one demand, and that's market demand for that good provided by the monopolist, and that is demand for the monopolist. How about in this market?
So many kinds.
Huh?
Different kind of products, so many different kind of.
You're going to have many demand, okay? And each individual firm is going to have a demand, and that demand represents this firm's targeted consumers. Okay, so there is not really a market demand to draw anymore, because market is divided into segments, okay? Because you have many different products, right? Each product has its own demand curve, and that demand curve represents the consumer who are willing to buy this particular product. Okay, and so we no longer can draw the market demand in this market anymore. Okay. And so if they say this represents a firm's demand, and that will be it. And this demand here also has negative slope, because when the price goes up and the quantity is going to go down for any particular product in this market. Okay, so that's the difference. So in this market, there's no market demand, okay? But there's a demand for each individual differentiated product.
makes sense.
Okay. Any question here? Did I make this clear? So that's one thing you need to.
So you said in a Perfect competitive market.
In the perfect competitive market, your product is the same.
Yeah.
Your product is the same, okay? So then you can have a market demand for this one particular product, but that market demand has a negative slope, right? Okay, but for each individual firm, the things they cannot set the price. They have to take the price as given, determine the market. So in a perfect competitive market, a perfect firm faces demand like this. So there is a difference between market demand and the individual firm's demand in a perfect competitive market. So this three market here is totally different, okay? So any other question here? I can see still some of you have questions. Okay, another question I want to ask you here. Since we have no barrier to enter and no barrier to exit, so what will happen if you open a business and you start making a really good profit? Let's say, I can tell you in China, in the last 10 years, dry cleaning business has been very good.
Mm-hmm.
People make a lot of, I would say 50, 60 years ago in this country, when the dry cleaning being started, there was really nice profit margin there, but right now it's zero because the competition has driven that profit to zero. But in China in the last 10 years, and the dry cleaning business has been really profitable, okay? Because I have a friend who is the owner of dry cleaning. He said, he's making really nice profit every year. And he was very content. He's not doing anything, okay? And so what I'm going to ask you is, if we're in this market, you're making very positive, very nice profit, what will happen?
So many followers.
If in this market there's no barrier to enter, no barrier to exit, like in the United States, okay,
Yeah, a lot of people.
other people will
Other
enter.
businesses will enter.
But remember, this will be different in a different country, because in a different country you may have some regulation, you may have some networking that prevent other competitor come in, like in China. So we will call that market in China. It's not perfect it's not really competitive like it here. But if we assume it is really competitive, really no barrier to enter exit, then other firms will gonna come in, right? Okay, when other firms come in, what's gonna happen to the profit eventually? It's going to become zero. Okay, so what I'm asking you here is, as more firms to come in, more competitors to come in, what's going to happen to this demand faced by this individual firm? It's going to flatten out or become steeper? Flatten out. Why?
Because the price is going to, they will become the price takers.
That's a good point.
They're going to
They would,
become
the price would stabilize.
more,
to more-
become more elastic or inelastic?
Elastic.
Elastic. Okay. So as more competitors come in, so remember this, that will change the demand. Will become this one.
So going to her point, wouldn't they become price takers?
And I don't think it will ever become a price taker. Why is that? Is the firm will constantly find a way to differentiate. That's the reason. Brandon, you need to go.
Yes, ma'am. You can mark me out, and I just gotta.
Okay.
Take care of something. Sorry for the disturbance.
Okay, so it's never, that's a good question, never become price taker. Because just when you think it's going to become the price taker, it's really flattened out, and they're going to start doing some differentiation. They're going to launch a new product and trying to maintain that profit margin there. Okay. All right, so that's what's going to happen when the firms come in. All right, so now we're going to figure out how the quantity and how the output and price is determined. Okay, So this demand here represents the market characteristics. In order to derive the output and price, we have to have the characteristic from the perfect competitive form. Okay. So which means we need cost function there. We need the marginal cost, we need average total cost function. Average total cost here. Marginal cost is right here. Okay. Okay, so do we have everything we need to find optimal output? How are we going to find optimal output Q? What is the condition we use over, not over and over again?
Marginal density equals marginal cost.
Remember the thing said right on this corner here?
Revenue.
Never forget that. It's going to follow that again. So do we have marginal revenue? Do we have marginal revenue graph there? How do we find the marginal revenue?
Equal to the marginal cost.
It's going to equal to marginal cost. That's how we find Q. But we don't have the marginal revenue curve or line there. How do we find it? How do we derive the marginal revenue? We derived it last class. Right? We derived the last class. How do we derive the marginal revenue?
Price times quantity.
And that is total revenue, right? So we have total revenue first. Then we take the derivative of the total revenue with respect to Q, right? Okay. And do you remember what marginal revenue look like compared to the demand? Is it below or above demand?
Below.
It's below, and if it's linear, demand is linear, and it's going to have the same intercept on the vertical axis. That's marginal revenue. Okay. So once the demand function and is given, then we can derive the marginal revenue function in terms of Q as well. Right? Okay. So it's right here. So now we know the marginal revenue. Do we have the marginal cost? Yes, we have the marginal cost. And then where they meet, that is Q star. Just like the way we derive for the monopolist case, right? We use MC and MR to determine Q star. Okay, so Q star has been determined. How about P, price?
It's the same point.
How do we define the
Well, it
price?
goes up to
Goes
the
up to the demand.
Goes up to the demand, then we find the price. Very good. This is just like the way we did for the monopolist case, right? Okay. If we want to sell this much, you have to have this many consumers to buy, and so you have to set the price where P and P star and Q star follow the law of demand. Okay, nothing is actually different. You know, the way we derive the P and Q the same as monopolist case. Nothing's different from here. Okay, but there is a difference. What's the difference? The difference is what's going to happen in the long run. We know in the monopolist case, there's no difference between short run and long run, right? Because nobody's going to come in the long run, right? Whatever the profits are made in the short run and can be maintained in the long run as well. So in the long run, how this graph is going to change?
your demand line will flatten out.
demand is going to flatter, and probably it's going to become lower as well, right? Because now more people going to go to the other competitor to buy the product, so the demand for your product is going to be smaller. So this demand here is going to shift down, but at the same time flatten out, right? And this is going to keep moving until what?
It just reaches equilibrium.
Reach what? What is equilibrium? What is long-run equilibrium? No economic profit. Okay, and you reach the point where there's no profit made by this one. Right now there is a profit. Where is it? This is the total revenue, and this is the total cost, right? ATC here, right here. So this area here is the total profit. Once this is exhausted, then we reach the long-run equilibrium.
So you're presuming that inevitably this firm will stop making money.
Eventually. What I'm assuming here is the force of the market and competition will push the profit to zero. Okay, but is that zero profit condition going to be stable forever? No. If this firm, that like what Apple did, okay, I'm going to launch an iWatch because from the iPhone the profit is close to zero. I'm going to launch a new product. And guess what? That new differentiation is going to give that firm another positive profit margin. But if we have the competitive nature in the market, then that profit will become smaller and smaller again. So the force of the market always push the profit to zero, but does not mean that zero is going to be there forever. You see? Yeah. That's what we call it. It is equilibrium, but it's not sustainable forever. You know, because market is constantly changing. Okay. I'm going to make this a little bit flat. So eventually, in the long run, so in the long run, eventually, the graph will look like that. And it's kind of difficult to draw that because you have to make sure this ATC is tangent to the demand at this point, and this point pointing to the optimal Q star. So in the long run equilibrium, and you have zero economic profit. And if you want to make a positive economic profit, you have to do something else. You have to differentiate your product once again. You have to launch a new product, or you have to find a niche market again. And when you do that, you may be able to generate another positive profit, and all this process is moving again.
So you just constantly have to adapt.
You constantly have to, you have to constantly renovate. You constantly have new things to attract the new customers and attract, and a different kind of consumer. You have to constantly doing that, you know. When my friend told me, and he's very happy with profit made, from the dry cleaning, I told him, if you do not do anything within 5 years, your profit is going to drop by 40%. So, and when he went back to China, and he said, I really gave him a lot of thinking to do. He thought about another idea. The idea he had, I thought is really great. He thought he's going to do the dry cleaning online. not doing he's going to right now. It's just people take the clothes to the shop, right? But he starts thinking doing this online orders. People can do the orders online. Then you can attract consumer from different district, not just in your neighborhood. Okay,
Just
so.
out of curiosity,
Mhm.
when you gave him the 40% drop in revenue in 5 years, did you have numbers to support that, or is it just your intuition?
It is my intuition based on my understanding.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's really kind of scared him a little bit and make him, but make him to think, he need to do something with this business. He can either expand it, okay, that would give him more time, but then you have to invest in it, right? Okay, so you have to do something about it.
Are there regulations on business licenses for dry cleaning shops?
In China? Oh, yes, we have regulation, but the thing that, first thing, he's able to make a nice profit margin is, okay, he's renting, the rent he's paying, it's much lower than market rate. Okay, why? Because he's renting a space from a school. And he has public relations with that school.
Sure.
But I told him, okay, what if the boss of that public school retired, a new boss came in, then you may not have that kind of relationship, you may not be able to maintain that rent rate anymore. Okay, another thing here is in China right now, for the small business like that, there's no tax. Tax is exempt.
No tax.
No tax. So he's not paying any tax on his profit.
And so
And I told him that that's not going to last forever either.
Yeah.
So I have all these, things I know is going to happen in 5 years. So I know in 5 years, if he does not do anything, the profit is going to drop dramatically.
Where's the tax bracket? What's the threshold?
Well, I think he told me that. I forgot it. But it has to be really a middle size, a decent size, before you can pay the tax. Yeah. But I was actually surprised to learn that he's not paying any tax on the profit. Yeah. But anyway, so. So that's what's going to happen in a perfect competitive market. And next, what I want to do here is I want to do a comparison. Okay. Do a comparison between this market and the perfect competitive market, and this market and the monopolistic market. Okay. So one thing I want you to compare is this. Okay. Let me do this. I'm going to increase this. Perfect competitive. Profit maximizing rule. Profit maximizing rule is OMR equal to MC. There's no difference. Okay. But I should erase this. I should. But what I want you to compare here is this. What's the relationship between the P and MC for all these three cases? Okay. And we know for the perfect competitive market, P is just equal to marginal revenue, right? So P equal to MC. Okay. Now, for the monopolistic competitive market, what is the relationship P and marginal revenue and MC? What is the relationship between P and marginal revenue? P is right here, right? What is the marginal cost and marginal revenue? And two stuff. When Q is Q star, Star, what is marginal cost?
Oh, it's lower.
It's right here, right? So this is marginal revenue or marginal cost when Q is equal to Q star, right? Okay. So what you have is a relationship. Okay. And the same thing here. So for both monopolist competitive market and monopolist market, the price is greater than that. What does it tell us? In a perfect competitive market, what you're paying for is the social cost of making the good. Marginal cost means the social cost of making the goods. Means, what is the cost of using the resources to making the good. That's the marginal cost. So in a perfect competitive market, what you're paying is just cost of making it. But in both the monopolist competitive and monopolist market, you're paying more. You're paying more than the social cost of making the good.
Can you explain why?
Can I explain why?
Yeah.
Okay. For this one, you're paying more than the social cost of good because some of the surplus has gone to the monopolist. The monopolist is able to maintain a positive profit margin, and so he's maintaining a positive the surplus. So this here, the difference between the price you're paying and the social cost of the goods, that difference has gone to the pocket of the monopolist. Monopolists charge a rate that's higher than the cost of making it, so they can maintain some profit.
Same thing with the monopolistic.
For this one, okay, the reason there's some, but the reason this one exists is not because some of the profit has gone to the firm. Because the firm we talk about in the long run will make a zero economic profit, right? So what's the cost of this happening?
Equal, sometimes.
No, they will never equal. The price is always greater than the marginal cost.
Well, that's what I don't understand. I
That's a
don't,
good question, yeah.
I don't understand how your price is always gonna be greater than your costs if you eventually are gonna reach economic stagnation or the word turmoil.
Long run equilibrium. Long run equilibrium. So this is our long run equilibrium graph, right? Okay, so in this long run equilibrium, no firm is making any profit. Profit is equal to zero.
Well, maybe I'm just interpreting the chart wrong, because
This is long run
okay,
graph.
because you're reaching your total cost, your average total cost, are equal to your price.
That's right. So that's why you're making zero economic profit. Yeah. So you're making zero economic profit, but the price you're charging is still greater than this.
And then the only decision to make from then is to differentiate yourself against in some way.
So the reason why this is that is because of the differentiation. Because of the differentiation, there's some efficiency lost in this market. So this actually shows whenever this one is not equal to the social cost of making good, some efficiency has been lost. Okay, the efficiency has been lost because of what?
At the consumer's expense.
If any firm in the market has some market power, and that will for sure cause the efficiency to lose in the market. So anytime there's some firm that have some market power, which is charging a higher price without losing customer, then you're going to see the efficiency loss. And whenever you see the efficiency loss, that's what's going to happen. The price that you're paying for is going to be greater than the marginal cost of the social cost of making the good. Okay, so really, these two things actually the kind of on the opposite side of each other. If there's a market power, this is not going to be the highest. This will lose.
Right.
If you have the highest efficiency, then this cannot exist.
Right.
Okay, so this is, you can see this two as a enemy to exist. So the reason this exists is because of that. It's not because of the positive profit, because in this form here, they're making zero profit. But they still have market power. They still can manipulate price. As long as the firm in this market is able to manipulate price in any way, then this will happen.
So this is primarily a model for a business to consumer market as opposed to a business to business model, or would they,
What do you mean business? I mean, give me an example.
like a supplier that sells exclusively to businesses as opposed to consumers? They're
It
not
applies to that as well.
completely-
Applies to that, because even you provide, product or service to another business, still you're competing with somebody else. Yeah, so applies to anything. So the key thing you're gonna take from this is that it does not matter whether this firm in this market making zero profit or not, if this firm has power, has some kind of power, and is going to count against
Yeah.
the efficiency. And it's going to cause us, the consumer, to lose some surplus. Okay. So efficiency means the consumer surplus is highest. If the efficiency of the market is highest, then the consumer surplus is highest, which means we benefit most from it. Okay. But if we want to benefit the most from the market, the firm cannot have any market power. Okay. But that is not true in the market, right? Most of the market, the firm will have, even just have small market power, they have some sort of market power. Okay. But for this one, he will not, they have all the market power. Okay. That's why they not only this happens, but also they maintain some positive profit margin. So if, in economics, actually, all this stuff here, you might think it's a lot, it's very complicated. It's not complicated. If you kind of understand the relationship of these two, and you understand everything that follows in the microeconomics.
So it really comes down to who's winning, the consumer
That's
or the
right.
firm.
Yeah. The consumers never have we assume the consumer do not have power. The consumer we cannot say, okay, I'm gonna buy this bottle of water as $1. You cannot say that, right? It's a company who has the power to charge the price. Okay, so it's that power that matters in this market. And we want this, as a consumer, we want that power to go away. But whenever it cannot go away completely, then the efficiency of the market is lost to a certain extent. And we suffer by paying more, and we suffer by having less surplus. That's the bottom line. It's the power, the market power, that matters in the market. So in this market here, you want to have this, and that's, when you become a business owner, that's what you want to have, the market power. How do you have it? You have constantly by, maintaining your niche market, by constantly, either launch a new product line or using the advertisement or expanding the scale. You have to constantly to do something to maintain this, because this requires a lot of work. If you do not do anything, this will disappear. Okay, so that's what the companies spend their most of time and money on, is maintain that market power. Okay, advertisement and R&D research, all this stuff is trying to differentiate and maintain that. So this is not really an easy thing to do to run the business, because you have to constantly working. Unless you expand, you become so successful, you step out of this market structure, which we're going to talk about later on. When you become an extremely an extremely big firm, when you enter into oligopolistic market structure, then it's different. You can probably rest a little bit. because once you maintain let's say you maintain 30% market share, and that profit margin is going to sustain for a while, because there will be barrier for other firms to enter.
For instance, like Nike.
Yes, that's right. Yes, Nike has a really big market share, right?
Right about 30%.
Right, about 30%. That's right. Once you become that firm, your reputation established, it's hard for other firms to compete with you. Then that means this is really, really big. It's hard to disappear. It may decrease, but it's hard to disappear. Okay, but it's gonna take a long time, take a lot of effort. And before you reach that big, you have to constantly renovating and maintaining it. So you do not think running a business that is easy. It's hard work. It's much harder work than working with other people.
Got any, with that being said, got any industries that come to mind?
Me?
Yeah, just.
In the United States?
Yeah.
Well, in China, I have a lot of industry in my mind, but right now here, and this market is so established, so mature.
So saturated.
Yeah, it's very hard to find a market. Yeah, if I find one, I'll let you guys know, so you can start your own company. I would like to buy a share. Yeah. But think big. We have to think big. Okay, so now I want to mention is there's some technical stuff that I did not go over in this book because I find it's unnecessary, because they show you how do you derive the optimal output Q. So which means MR equal to MC. They want to show you how that formula is derived. I really did not go over that. I don't think I want you to know that. I just want you to remember MR equal to MC, that formula. That's more than enough. Yeah. Okay. And then I think I finished this chapter, finish all the stuff I want to talk about. And you are ready to do all the homework. Okay, some of the homework, they have this elasticity question, and I don't need you to worry about the elasticity question because we really did not go over that. But the one question I want to mention here. Look at question 4 in page 315. Good, some people from their book.
Page 350.
315. Okay. So the typical question from this chapter and last chapter, the end of last chapter, will be this. You are given a demand function. Okay. Okay, that's the typical question you're going to see from this chapter. You're giving a demand function and you're giving a cost function. So demand function represents this, and the cost function can be used to draw the ATC and MC, right? Okay, so basically you have everything you need for the graph, but we're just not drawing the graph, we just have the mathematical representation for those, okay? So like what we did here, in order to find this optimal output, you need to have the marginal revenue, you need to have the marginal cost. And you're going to derive the marginal revenue from the demand, and you're gonna derive the marginal cost from the total cost function. Then you set them equal to each other, right? Okay, so let's just do this as a practice here. Okay, so this is our demand, inverse demand. To find marginal revenue, we need to find what? Total revenue, TR, equal to P multiply Q, which is 300 minus 3Q multiply Q, right? We have 3 current Q minus 3Q squared. Okay, so what is marginal revenue, guys? Will be 300 minus 6Q. Okay, good. So we have found the marginal revenue line. Next, we need to find what? Marginal cost. Okay. Marginal cost is a derivative of this total cost function. So what is the marginal cost from here? 4Q, right? Do you guys all see that? It's equal to 4Q. So you set these two things equal to each other. You know, R equal to MC, then you solve Q. Very straightforward exercise, right? And Q eventually is equal to 30 units. Okay? You guys follow me here? Wake up. Wake up.
Where do you get 4Q? 4Q, you got it from the cost?
Yeah.
Right
The
there.
take derivative of this is 2 minus 2 plus 2.
Two.
So now 2 times 2.
Two.
Q. Yeah.
And 1,500 is a constant, so just.
Yeah, 1,500 will be fixed cost.
Yeah.
This is the variable cost. Yeah.
Alright.
So we have the Q, and what about the price, optimal price for this firm? Put back into here, should be 90, so we have 210, so that is the price, okay? And the next question they would ask you to do is to find the total profit. What is profit? It's the total revenue minus the total cost, this cost Q. So you just plug Q right into here, it's just the rest of the just, calculation, right?
I'm sorry, so I was writing.
Okay, the total profit is equal to total revenue, which is this, right? Minus the total cost, which is this.
Okay.
And you have all the numbers you need, you just plug into it, right? So it's not hard.
So revenue, so that's.
There's one question that is kind of difficult, I'm gonna talk about it right now, after this.
Just again, the total cost, which you subtract, where is that on?
Total cost is right here, right?
Gotcha.
Okay. Alright. So you can do the rest of calculation, but I want to, and do the next part of this same question. Next part they ask you, okay, we know this Q30 is one that maximizes the profit. But then ask you what is the revenue maximizing output? Revenue maximizing output. So the output level that maximizes the total revenue, not the total profit. How do we do that? Alright, okay. Whenever you have a maximizing mathematical problem, you always take the derivative of that expression and set that derivative equal to 0. So when we maximize the profit, actually what we did is we take the derivative of the whole profit with respect to Q, and then that derivative is equal to I'm at minus MC. Now when z is equal to 0, then that's what we got. So actually this condition we've been using is derived from the derivative of this profit. Same thing. So every time you want to maximize something, you take the first order derivative of that expression. You set that derivative equal to 0. All right. So now we want to maximize the total revenue, which is that, right?
6Q.
So we're going to take the derivative of this.
Not the entire expression, just total revenue.
6Q.
No, that's 300Q here.
So it's
No.
300 minus 6Q.
That's right. So marginal revenue, actually we have that, right? 300 minus 6Q, right? We set this equal to 0. When we set this equal to 0, we can solve Q, which is equal to 50, right?
Yep.
And this number here maximize total revenue. So remember this, every time we want to maximize something, you take the derivative of that expression, okay? Okay? So this condition here is derived by using the same principle, okay? All right. And the next question I want to go over is question 5, okay?
That's page 316.
Yes, 316 here.
Here, what question is that? Yes, what question is that?
6.
6 is the one that you just
No,
did.
5.
No, that one's 5.
What about when you take the derivative?
This
Oh,
one?
that one's
that's
4.
four.
Yeah, the one we
This
did
one's
was 4. So it's right here.
So this is 5.
225 minus 2.
Okay, so the question 5 give you a cost
Yeah,
function.
sorry.
And they ask you to determine the short-run supply function. Short-run supply function. If the firm is a perfectly competitive firm, if you operate as a monopoly, or if you operate as a monopolistically competitive firm. So, first, let's start with what if you operate as a perfectly competitive firm.
Is that plus 9? No, that's plus QI. Just. Never mind if I got it.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what if this is a perfect competitive firm? How do we find the short-run supply function? The supply. Remember this graph here, guys? Which part is the supply curve?
Below, above the ABC.
From here to here, right? So that's what they're asking you. they're asking you to find the function form for this. So which means you have to have this marginal cost, right? Because it's on the marginal cost, but it's not all of them. Okay, so the first step is what? Derive the marginal cost function from this total cost. That should not be a hard exercise, right?
So this is the root of that.
Yeah, what is it?
The
One,
58 minus 12 QI plus 3Q.
square.
Yeah, square.
Right? Good. Okay. But this function here represent all of this, right? But we do not need all of this. We need to cut this part out, right? So we need to know what is this output here. So we can say we only need this function when Qi is above this number here, right? So now we need to know what is this output number right here. How do we find that?
Equal AVC.
This is the point when ABC equal to that, right? So to find this point, you not only need a marginal cost function, you also have to derive the ABC function. So what is ABC function?
Without 160.
How do we find ABC? Xian already told us. We have to have the total variable cost function, right? What is total variable cost? What is total variable cost?
58Q minus.
This is the fixed cost, 160. The rest of them would be variable cost, right? Then that variable cost has to divide it by what? To find average variable cost, you use total variable cost divided by what?
How many units?
Divided by Q, right? So this divided by Q will be equal to what?
Prices.
So it should be 58 minus what? 6QI plus QI squared, right? Okay.
So you,
Okay, so next, what we need to be doing next? I think you guys know how to do it, right? What do you need to be done next? So you have the ABC function, you have the MC function, what's next?
Set them equal.
Mm-hmm. You set them equal, then you solve QI, right? And that QI is that Q we're looking for.
That's where it meets that ABC.
That's right. Is everyone following me on this? Know what we're doing? So what we're doing here is, we have derived this function. We have derived this. Then we set them to equal to each other. When we set them equal to each other, what we've solved is this. Okay? And then after they solve this output, we can say, we only need a marginal cost function when output is greater than this value. And that would be the short-run supply. Okay, I want you to do the rest of yourself. Is it clear? What is not clear? What is not clear?
How do you get 6QI?
Okay, so this is the TVC divided by QI, right? TVC is this part. So when you divide this by QI, is QI gone? one of the QI gone,
I guess she's going back to the original.
and this one become
Square.
Oh, I took it from MC. That's why.
this.
I took it from the wrong one.
Yeah.
So you go back to the original equation.
Yeah.
This is the TVC, yeah. So TVC is 58 QI minus 6 QI squared plus QI third power divided by QI. So in the total cost function, the first part, the constant number is fixed cost. The second part, the rest part is variable cost. And use the total variable cost divided by Q, and that was AVC. So this question shows you graph and the mathematical equation have to use together to solve this. Have you guys solved the Q? Has anybody solved the Q yet? That should not be hard. That should be very easy to solve. Right? Is the math part that is you guys are not getting? What's the question here? Did you guys set these two things equal to each other yet? Huh? What do you get? Three? How about the rest of you? You get that? I don't understand. I thought this is really, really simple here. 58 minus 12 QI plus 3 QI squared. You set this equal to 58 minus 6Q plus QI squared. Solve this. Is it hard?
No, we got it. Alright, so we just put
The negative 6QI
yeah, 58.
plus 2QI squared. Is it negative 6QI plus 2QI squared?
I need a number. Will be a number for the QI. So this is the equation you're going to solve QI from here.
Oh, okay, you got it.
How many of you solved this one yet? Raise your hand. I know she did. What else? No? This takes no time to solve this. Alright, okay, I'm going to solve it. You got it?
I got it, but it might not be right.
What is it? What's the QI equal to?
18 QI plus 4 QI squared.
No, eventually this should be a number, QI. So look at this. This is the equation with only one variable. So you can solve this QI. So QI should be equal to a number. Alright, let me do this here. Okay, so watch me then. Okay, you guys. Alright, so we're gonna move this QI squared to the right hand side, to the left hand side. Then will be 3 QI squared minus QI squared, right? Then we move this one to the right hand side, right? Would become what? 6 QI, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 cancel, so here should be 3, right? So now we have QI squared is equal to 3 QI. What do we do with this?
That is the question.
That's the question. I know that's the question. Since both sides have QI, you just cancel it out.
Okay, what?
Since both sides have QI,
No, I know that part. Where the QI squared on the end.
You move this to the left hand side, that becomes
Left-hand
minus.
To
That's how you get
Yeah,
QI
so you subtract one
squared.
from
So
three.
where do I mess up at?
Okay, so when you reach here, cancel a QI out on both sides. It's like cancel two
So QI equals 3.
QI equals 3. So this number here is 3. So the short supply function is this when QI greater than 3. Okay. Then the next two parts ask you, what if now it's a monopolist firm or monopolist competitive firm? What would be the short-run supply function? Or do we have a short-run supply function for monopoly firm?
That's what I'm saying.
For both of them, actually, right?
That's right. Because for both monopolist and monopoly competitive firm, they're going to solve the queue. They're going to have a queue, and a particular output is going to provide for this market here. So there is no short-run supply curve for both market. That's what we're looking at. Because they cannot. There's a particular price they're going to set, and for that particular price, they're going to provide a specific output. And
This test is about to be 8 days.
it's going to be what?
It's gonna be tough.
It's going to be tough?
When is it?
It's not going to be as tough as you think.
When's our event?
So we'll finish this chapter here. Today is Thursday.
Just trying to figure it out.
Trying to figure out? Okay. When do you want it to be? It has to be in the next 2 weeks.
In the next 2 weeks.
When do you want it to be? I'd like you guys to choose. Either Tuesday or Thursday, the week. You want in the next week?
Wait a minute, so you're saying
Next, it has to be either next week or the week after next week, right?
There's no week for today.
Week from today?
I mean,
Do I have consensus about that? A week from today?
Not next week.
Uh-uh.
After. You see the next Thursday. right?
After the homework.
After.
What about the
Oh, the
11th?
homework is due next week, actually.
the homework's due next
Okay,
Saturday.
Don't leave yet, we still have 2 minutes. Still got to be done. But think about it, if you wait too long, you forget. Okay? And you're gonna have this exam no matter what, okay? You can postpone a couple days, you're still gonna have it. So think, what is the optimal day for you to have the exam that you can still have the fresh memory, still have the time to do the work?
What's the chapters are
Chapter 8 and also the last chapter 5, these 2 chapters.
I personally would love.
How about the 10 on the 11th?
Do it Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Let's do it next Thursday.
Thursday.
In 1 week?
Yeah.
Give us 2 weeks.
That's not bad.
That's what I'm saying. If 2 weeks, you forget this stuff.
What about November 4th?
Huh?
we're gonna keep doing it.
It's a Tuesday after.
But the homework, you can do it earlier if you want to.
So when do you start covering the material that's not gonna be on our next class?
I mean, next week I'm gonna start a new material. I cannot, if
Everything's gonna be on the test, we already.
no. Next week, if we're gonna have an exam on Thursday next week, I'm gonna use Tuesday to go over something.
Hey, no problem with that.
Let's do
You
that.
guys cool with that?
Yeah. I think that's the best for you. If we don't have exam next week, I'm gonna go over new stuff next
Yeah,
next
let's not
week.
do that. I
I
hate
mean, waiting
it.
longer is gonna make it go away.
Let's do it Tuesday.
Tuesday she'll do her review session.
Let's do it on October 30 or what?
That's what
22nd?
she's saying, if we do.
Okay, I think we have pretty much consent. Let's do it the next Thursday. And so you still have fresh memory, but do the homework. You can do the homework right now.
And then Tuesday next week, you're gonna do a review session.
Review
for the
session,
Thursday.
yeah.
So homework is
Let's
due
take it right
tomorrow.
now. Let's just say after.
You can do the homework right now. Yeah, we have everything. Yeah. Just do it finish this
1
weekend.
week from today.
It's next Wednesday work for everybody?
Sure.
Get together, study together.
Oh, sure, right?